In the unforgiving crucible of college life, where the weight of coursework bore down relentlessly and the specter of homelessness loomed just one step away, I found myself teetering on the edge of despair. Born into modest means, I had always believed that education was my ticket to a brighter future. With a fervent desire for learning and a heart brimming with ambition, I'd embarked on my college journey, determined to overcome the financial challenges that constantly threatened to derail my dreams. The university campus, a bustling hive of activity during the day, transformed into a pressure cooker of stressed students laboring in dimly lit libraries far into the night. My academic pursuits were a constant uphill battle, with a rigorous course load that left little room for rest or extracurricular activities. It was a constant struggle to keep pace with my peers, who seemed to navigate college life with ease. But I refused to let my background dictate my future. The jarring contrast between the vibrant facade of academia and the invisible struggles of many students underscored the harsh realities of financial instability. While some of my fellow students dined in cozy cafes and enjoyed carefree social lives, my evenings were filled with part-time jobs, laboring to make ends meet and keep the ever-looming threat of homelessness at bay. The pressure to excel academically and secure a better future was compounded by the relentless financial stress that weighed heavily on my shoulders. Desperation was my guiding star, leading me to scour the classifieds in search of a lifeline. I scanned newspaper ads, online listings, and community bulletin boards, hoping to stumble upon an affordable haven that could provide some respite from the whirlwind of college life. The need for a stable, affordable place to call home was paramount, and it drove me to explore every possibility, no matter how unconventional or seemingly cursed. Then, on a fateful day, I stumbled upon an advertisement that promised salvation. A one-bedroom, one-bath studio apartment offered at a price so astonishingly low that it seemed too good to be real. The allure of affordable housing was irresistible, and despite the ominous rumors that surrounded the apartment, I couldn't afford to let such an opportunity slip through my grasp. The address led me to a forgotten corner of the town, where time's erosion had left its mark on dilapidated buildings and echoing silence. The town's outskirts revealed a stark contrast to the bustling student life on campus. Here, the quietude was punctuated by the eerie creaking of rusted swing sets in long-abandoned parks and the murmur of forgotten whispers within the walls of abandoned houses. The signs of the town's decline were evident in the cracked sidewalks and the crumbling facades of businesses struggling to stay afloat. As I stood before the apartment, I realized that it reflected my own journey, an attempt to rise above my circumstances and secure a future filled with hope and opportunity. The apartment, with its unsettling history, served as a metaphor for the obstacles I had overcome and the challenges I was willing to face in pursuit of my dreams. My heart raced as I approached the address, and I hesitated before pressing the doorbell. With a drawn-out creak, the door swung open, revealing a frail old man named William Lying. His hunched form and weary eyes hinted at a life burdened by more than just years, a reflection of the town's own struggles that had left their indelible mark on its residents. "Come in, my dear," he beckoned, his voice raspy, leading me into a dimly lit, cluttered living room. It was here that Mr. Lying, with a sigh that seemed to carry the weight of a world's worth of sorrow, shared the apartment's unsettling history. "Listen," he said with a long, heavy pause. "You don't want this apartment. It's got a bad past. The young man that previously rented from me got into some vile stuff. I'm talking witchcraft and devil worship. Anyways, I found him with his brains splattered in the bathroom. Place has been empty ever since." the morbid story sat uneasy in the pit of my stomach. Leaning forward, I interrupted. "I need this place, Mr. Lawing. I'm one step away from being homeless." Mr. Lawing ran his gnarled fingers through thin, wispy hair, contemplating the apartment's dark past. "Frankly," he said, "it might be best to burn this place down, to get rid of the evil that clings to it. But I'm growing old, and my retirement savings are dwindling due to inflation." "Then you'll rent the apartment to me?" I asked. Mr. Lawing exhaled and nodded a confirmation. Disbelief welled up within me, grappling with the bizarre revelation. However, as the conversation shifted to the rent, the temptation proved irresistible. An almost unbelievable lifeline from the depths of financial despair. After negotiations that brimmed with reluctance, Mr. Lawing agreed to let me rent the apartment, accompanied by a stern warning as we finalized the deal. "You must always keep the bedroom light on, my dear. Never let the darkness take hold. And no children." The next day, I moved in, filling the compact space with my modest belongings. In the daylight, the apartment revealed its true nature. A decrepit space steeped in an air of decay and despair. The walls, once painted a hopeful shade of ivory, were now marred with age, their once bright color muted into a sickly pallor. A pervasive dampness hung in the air, permeating the room with a musty odor that clung to every surface. The wooden floorboards, warped and discolored, creaked under the slightest pressure, their protest echoing through the desolate apartment like ghostly sighs. The windows, begrudgingly allowing feeble rays of sunlight to filter through, were adorned with tattered curtains that swayed ominously in the faintest breeze. Cobwebs dangled from the corners like macabre ornaments, their presence a testament to the apartment's long-standing neglect. No matter how diligently I cleaned, the sense of filth persisted, as if the very essence of the place resisted any attempts at purification. The kitchen, a cramped space adjacent to the living room, was a study in dilapidation. Rust coated the sink and faucet, and the cabinets, once white, were now stained with years of grime. The refrigerator hummed with an unsettling intensity, occasionally emitting mysterious groans that reverberated through the silence. The bedroom, the epicenter of the apartment, was suffused with a perpetual gloominess, despite my relentless efforts to brighten it. The wallpaper, peeling at the edges, depicted faded floral patterns that seemed to wilt under the weight of the room's shadows. The bathroom, though functional, exuded an aura of decrepitude. The tiles, once a pristine white, were now stained with grout that had turned a sickly shade of yellow. In the ceiling, a single bullet hole acted as morbid testament to the previous tenant's fate. Every corner of the apartment seemed to whisper with melancholy, a chorus of long-forgotten tragedies and unfulfilled dreams. Even in the daylight, shadows clung to the walls like sentient beings, their shapes contorting into sinister forms that danced with eerie delight. The atmosphere was dense with an inexplicable heaviness, as if the very walls were saturated with the anguish of the apartment's tormented past. As I lay in bed, immersed in a book beneath the soft glow of my bedside lamp, it began, a faint whisper, ethereal and chilling, emerging from the very shadows that surrounded me. I tried to dismiss it as mere figments of my imagination, but the whispers grew louder, more insistent, morphing into eerie, desperate chants from realms unknown. I scanned the room, fear gnawing at my core. In the dim light, unsettling shadows pirouetted upon the walls, their forms twisted and grotesque. Objects stirred of their own accord, moving with a sinister intent, and an otherworldly atmosphere thickened with an undeniable, palpable presence, a force that felt alien and inescapable. Terrified, I triggered every light in the apartment, bathing the space in an overpowering blaze. It was only in the blinding brightness that the disturbances ceased, leaving an eerie stillness in their wake. The nights that ensued became a descent into torment. The ominous occurrences escalated, intruding upon my sleep and haunting my waking moments. Dark, ghostly figures loomed in the corners, their presence a stark contrast to the feeble light that seeped through the curtains. Eerie cries filled the hallways, a mournful chorus of lost souls, and an overwhelming sense of dread seemed to bear down upon me, thickening the air with an unshakable terror. Seeking answers, I pursued Mr. Lawing, only to discover his apartment abandoned. A report to the police yielded no trace of him, leaving me to grapple with the unsettling reality of my solitude within the apartment's walls. Trapped in a relentless battle against the encroaching darkness, I clung to Mr. Lawing's warning like a lifeline, keeping the bedroom light ablaze in a feeble sanctuary against the evil that lingered in the shadows. As I huddled in that sanctuary, I pondered the steep price I had paid for this seemingly too-good-to-be-true apartment, where the very walls seemed to whisper of long-forgotten horrors, and where demons lay in wait, ready to strike from their darkened lairs. The final night in that accursed apartment arrived, a night more terrifying than any before. The shadows gathered with an insatiable hunger, their forms twisted and grotesque, an army of darkness closing in on my feeble sanctuary. As the room quaked with an otherworldly force, the walls themselves seemed to tremble, moaning in anguish. The bedroom light, my only defense, flickered and sputtered, its fragile glow waning as if it were on the verge of surrender. In the midst of this nocturnal nightmare, a guttural voice, both ancient and hauntingly familiar, emanated from the heart of the shadows.
"You were warned, dear,"
it hissed, the words dripping with malice.
"but you chose to dwell in the realm of the Forsaken."
Terror coursed through my veins as the voice grew stronger, spectral wails joining the unholy symphony. The room seemed to tear apart at the seams, and I found myself in the grip of unseen forces, pulled inexorably toward the dark bathroom. With one final, desperate cry, I summoned every ounce of my willpower, and my hand reached out to the flickering light switch. With a trembling finger, I plunged the room into blinding brilliance. The malevolent forces recoiled, their tormenting presence shattered by the searing light. But my triumph was short-lived. As the shadows retreated, I glimpsed a spectral figure, the vengeful spirit of the tormented young man who had perished in this very room. His hollow eyes bore into mine, his silent accusation condemning me for disturbing the dark legacy of the apartment. The bedroom light, now flickering erratically, threatened to betray me. With a final, desperate act, I hurled myself out of bed, tearing the cord from the wall, and in the abrupt darkness, I made my escape. As I fled the apartment, I could feel the malevolence behind me, clawing at my heels, its chilling breath on the nape of my neck. The door slammed shut behind me with a resounding finality, leaving the apartment to its tortured history.
From C&S Law Firm PLLC. Date, October 23, 2023. To Reddington Real Estate Agency. Dear Mr. John Abraham Killington, Acting Real Estate Agent. Regarding Property Disclosure, 13 Sycamore Lane. I hope this letter finds you well. I am writing to bring to your attention a matter of utmost importance concerning the property located at 13 Sycamore Lane. My client, Ms. Eleanor Blackwood, who purchased the aforementioned property through your agency, has recently been experiencing a series of unsettling events in her new home, supported by compelling evidence. These events have led to severe mental distress, including nightmares and a constant feeling of impending doom. Ms. Blackwood's initial excitement about her new residence quickly turned to fear and dread as she began to witness inexplicable and horrifying occurrences. She has reported the following specific events with accompanying proof, 2 of which led to physical injuries. 1. Apparitions. On the night of October 15, 2023, Ms. Blackwood captured video footage on her cell phone depicting shadowy figures moving through the hallway of the property. These eerie silhouettes cannot be explained by any conventional means and are clearly visible in the recording. 2. Whispering voices. Ms. Blackwood has recorded audio clips of chilling, ghostly whispers occurring between the hours of 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the morning. These recordings have been analyzed by a third-party paranormal expert and determined to contain unidentifiable voices not belonging to any living individuals. 3. Cold spots. She has documented instances of dramatic temperature drops in specific areas of the house. A thermal imaging camera recorded temperatures plummeting as much as 20 degrees below room temperature in certain rooms, further confirming the presence of unexplained phenomena. 4. Tripping hazard. In the early morning hours of October 18, 2023, Ms. Blackwood tripped and fell on the staircase leading to the second floor of the property. She suffered injuries, including a fractured wrist and multiple bruises. Ms. Blackwood maintains that an unseen force or presence was responsible for her fall, as she felt an unnatural and unexplainable push. 5. Falling objects. On October 20th, 2023, Ms. Blackwood was in her kitchen when a set of dishes levitated and crashed to the floor, narrowly missing her. She sustained a deep laceration on her forearm from the broken shards. She insists there was no reasonable explanation for this terrifying event. These events have taken a significant toll on Ms. Blackwood's mental health. She is plagued by relentless nightmares, frequently waking up in a cold sweat, recounting vivid and terrifying visions of the property's dark history. She constantly feels a sense of impending doom, as if an ominous presence is lurking in every corner of her home. Her daily life has become a living nightmare, and she is unable to find respite. Upon investigating the property's history, it has come to our attention that the previous owner, Mr. Tobias Wainwright, tragically died in the home under suspicious circumstances. Mr. Wainwright was known to be an avid collector of antique artifacts with a particular affinity for the occult. It is believed that the property is imbued with a dark and malevolent energy, which is causing the haunting that Ms. Blackwood is experiencing. I must emphasize the seriousness of this matter. It is imperative that we address these concerns promptly and effectively. Ms. Blackwood has suffered not only physically, but also mentally, and her overall well-being is at risk. In accordance with legal obligations and the principles of full disclosure in real estate transactions, it is essential that you inform any potential buyers or renters of the haunting that plagues the property at 13 Sycamore Lane. Failure to do so may result in serious legal consequences and damage to your professional reputation. I kindly request that you arrange for a meeting with your client, Ms. Blackwood, at your earliest convenience to discuss a resolution to this matter. We believe it is in the best interest of all parties involved to find a suitable resolution, whether it be an amicable cancellation of the transaction, a potential refund of Ms. Blackwood's purchase price, or another equitable arrangement. Please be advised that this letter is not to be taken lightly, and we are prepared to take legal action should a satisfactory resolution not be reached promptly. We trust that you will act in a responsible and ethical manner to rectify this unfortunate situation. Thank you for your immediate attention to this matter. We look forward to your prompt response and the initiation of discussions to address this distressing issue. Sincerely, Stuart McKenneth, Licensed Lawyer, C&S Law Firm, PLLC.
Back in the late 80s, I was in my early 20s and deeply in love with Chad. We decided to tie the knot in 1989. The funny thing was, I had this grand dream of living in a big vintage mansion filled to the brim with antiques. Chad knew about this dream, but we both knew it was way out of our league in terms of affordability. But then, one evening, Chad came home all excited. He couldn't wait to spill the beans. He'd bought a Victorian mansion, just like the one in my dreams. It was massive, vintage, and stuffed with antiques. What made it even more mind-blowing was that he'd snagged it for a steal, way below the market price. At the time, we thought the guy who sold it to us must have been nuts to let it go so cheap. Little did we know that my crazy dream would lead us to such darkness. We moved into the mansion, and it was like something out of a movie. The place was located in Eatonton, a charming town, and it looked like it was straight out of a history book. The house itself was something else, with fancy turrets, intricate details all over the place, and a welcoming porch that was just perfect for sipping sweet tea on. Inside, it was just as impressive. The entrance had this beautiful chandelier that lit up the whole place. The walls were decked out with woodwork that must have taken ages to create, and the floors sparkled like crazy. Antique furniture was everywhere, making the mansion feel like a time capsule. While exploring the house, we noticed a beautiful painting in the hallway. It was a family portrait from 1878, featuring a young couple and their sweet, innocent-looking 7 or 8-year-old daughter. The little girl's eyes seemed so full of life that I could almost feel her presence. I was just about to reach out and touch it when, out of the blue, something darted across the room. It scared the living daylights out of me. I told Chad that I thought I saw something, but he brushed it off, saying I was just tired. We shrugged it off and decided to check out the rest of the mansion. There was a massive staircase right in the middle of the hall, and we couldn't resist going upstairs. We explored a few rooms up there, and one of them was something else. It was a small, pink-themed room with stuffed toys and dolls all around. I figured it must have been the daughter's room from the painting. Later that night, I was rudely awakened by an odd sound, as though pebbles were tapping against the window of our bedroom. My heart raced as I lay there, trying to make sense of it all. The minutes ticked by in eerie silence after the strange noise ceased. I stole a glance at the bedside clock, which cruelly displayed the hour as 3 a.m. I then turned my gaze toward Chad, who remained in blissful slumber, undisturbed by the bizarre experience. I contemplated waking him, but the tranquil room and Chad's serene sleep made me doubt myself. In the end, I convinced myself that it must have been my imagination, toying with my tired mind. I settled back down, eager to return to a peaceful sleep without the interference of unsettling thoughts. The following morning, I shared the unsettling experience with Chad. He did his best to downplay it, suggesting it might have been a stray cat or some other innocuous noise. After reassuring me, he headed off to work, leaving me alone in that big old house. The hours dragged on, and as I went about my chores, I tried to shake off the lingering unease that had settled over me. Fatigue began to take its toll, and I felt the need for a brief moment of respite. I settled in the living room, hoping to find some solace there. But just as I began to relax, an unexpected sound shattered the silence. Giggles, light and carefree, filled the air. Curiosity got the better of me, and I followed the sound, which led me straight to the kids' room. But when I opened the door, the room was all empty. There was no one in there. I hadn't shared anything with Chad, fearing he might think I was losing my mind. But that night, I could hear the bizarre tapping sounds once more. I was kinda scared after that. As the sun rose, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I felt an urgent need for answers, for some sense of security in my own home. So in the morning, I mustered the courage to discuss the disturbances with Chad. He tried to be the reassuring husband, putting forth a logical explanation. "Don't worry, my love. It's probably just some kids playing pranks. I'll take care of it, and you'll see. Everything will be fine." Despite Chad's best efforts to calm my nerves, an unsettling tension continued to clutch at my heart. The feeling that something wasn't right persisted, and I couldn't shake it off. The next night, Chad and I lay in bed, my eyes darting nervously around the room, bracing myself for the ominous tapping noise that had plagued my nights. As the clock cruelly struck 3 a.m., that dreaded sound echoed through the house once more, and it seemed to be coming from upstairs. Chad sprang out of bed, his determination etched across his face, while my anxiety was mirrored in his eyes. I followed closely behind him as we ascended the stairs, determined to confront the source of this torment. The hallway leading to the kids' room was eerily silent, except for the relentless tapping that grew louder with every step we took. I could see Chad gripping the baseball bat tightly as he slowly opened the door to the room. Inside, the tapping persisted. His eyes fixated on the window, and I heard his breath hitch in his throat as he found no one outside. No mischievous prankster to blame. Yet, the tapping continued, unyielding. Chad, cautiously, inched closer to the window. My heart raced as he hesitated, then carefully opened it, unleashing a rush of icy air into the room. As the window creaked open, an eerie revelation materialized before our eyes. A ghastly handprint etched onto the glass. It resembled a human hand, but the fingers were grotesquely elongated. Chad's terrified face said it all. He was struggling to comprehend this inexplicable horror. Just as he was about to examine the sinister handprint further, the relentless tapping escalated. It spread like wildfire, assaulting every window in the house with manic fury, as if an unseen force aimed to tear our world asunder. I was petrified, and confusion reigned. Sleep remained a distant dream for the rest of the night. The horrifying events of what had just occurred had shaken our sense of safety and normalcy to its core, leaving us with a profound sense of dread and uncertainty. Things started to get worse after that. The unsettling whispers that had initially lurked in the shadows of our home grew louder and more menacing. They hissed and chanted in languages that no human should comprehend, their sinister echoes haunting the halls. It was as though these voices emanated from every corner, from nowhere and everywhere, as if the very walls were conspiring against us. The shadows, once benign and fleeting, took on a malevolent life of their own. They slithered along the walls and floors, their elongated forms twisting and writhing in the dim light. I frequently caught sight of them, and it was terrifying to witness. Objects within the house seemed to be possessed by a malicious force. They moved on their own, crashing to the ground and shattering into pieces without any apparent cause. I tried desperately to convince Chad that something was terribly wrong in our house, urging him that we should leave. I could see in his eyes that deep down, he also sensed the malevolence within the home. But for some reason, he seemed determined to turn a blind eye to the horrifying reality that was unfolding around us. One day, while I was engrossed in kitchen chores, Chad's sudden appearance caught my attention. He looked at me with a bewildered expression and asked, "You're here?" I turned from my tasks and met his gaze calmly, replying, "Yes, I've been here for about 20 minutes now." I could see confusion and fear immediately grip Chad, and he hurriedly retreated to the hallway, swearing that he had just seen me there a moment ago, but now something was amiss. When I heard him cry out, my heart raced, and I rushed to join him in the hallway. I looked to where he was staring, and my heart nearly stopped. A shadowy figure, as dark as the depths of the night, was stealthily slinking up the stairs. As if he was possessed, Chad followed the ominous shadow as it ascended the staircase. The ethereal presence seemed to dissolve into the walls, vanishing from sight, but its sinister trail remained. Deep, jagged marks marred the once pristine walls, as if someone with nails as sharp as steel had clawed their way through, leaving behind a chilling reminder of the haunting presence that lurked within our home. At that moment, I turned to find the phone. We needed to call the police. It was in the hallway, underneath that family painting. But when I saw it, I cried out to Chad and pointed at it. Everyone in the portrait was crying blood. The blood-red tears streamed down their faces, staining the canvas, and our horror intensified. Within moments, we saw a shadow looming in the corridor, gradually drawing closer to us. Fear gripped us, and we bolted out of that accursed place, our hearts pounding. Rushing to a neighbor's house, Chad called the police, and we waited anxiously for their arrival. When the police officers arrived, they meticulously combed through the house, scrutinizing every nook and cranny, but they found no trace of anyone having been there recently. The bloodstains that had marred the painting had mysteriously vanished. The jagged marks in the hallway had also vanished. However, what Chad and I had seen and experienced was very real. It was, without a doubt, the most nightmarish ordeal I had ever endured. When Chad and I reached out to our neighbors, we unearthed a haunting story associated with that old mansion. It had stood empty for a long time, and stories abounded that the house was plagued by dark and horrifying occurrences. Many believed it was haunted by the restless spirits of a family who had once lived there. According to them, many years before, a lovely young couple resided there with their 8-year-old daughter. Then, one day, screams pierced the tranquility of the neighborhood, emanating from that house. The police were called in, and they made a chilling discovery. The lifeless bodies of the couple, brutally murdered. The daughter, however, was nowhere to be found. Despite exhaustive investigations, no one had ever been arrested for the heinous crime, and the whereabouts of their daughter remained an unsolved mystery. From that day onwards, the community started hearing the eerie laughter of a little girl and blood-curdling screams that tore through the stillness of the night. The spirits of the deceased, it seemed, were restless and seeking revenge from anyone who entered their house. In the face of this grim history and what we had experienced, Chad and I promptly evacuated that malevolent mansion. Chad also took legal action against the person who had sold it to us, yet the scars of that incident ran deep. Even years later, I still grapple with nightmares, and any mention of haunted places sends shivers down my spine. The chilling events that unfolded in that mansion remained etched in our memories, a horrifying chapter in our lives that defied explanation and left us with an enduring sense of dread.